The anime begins by introducing our protagonist, Takashi Kimuro, a 17-year-old student who is enrolled in the second year of high school. Currently, he is remembering times of his childhood when his best friend, Rei Miyamoto, promised to marry him when they grew up. However, as they grew older, they became distant, and Rei even began to feel resentful, causing her to lose interest and start dating Takashi's best friend, Hisashi Aigu. His thoughts are interrupted when he hears a loud bang. It turns out that a man is knocking the school gate aggressively. Some of the school staff approach to see what's up, and seeing that the man doesn't react, one of the teachers decides to use his strength. However, he is suddenly bitten by the man, who appears to be a zombie, so the teacher begins to writhe on the ground until he dies in a matter of seconds. The school nurse approaches the teacher to check on him and is glad to see that he is moving. She thinks that he is alive, but ends up being bitten as well. Witnessing this, Takashi immediately runs back to the classroom, trying to drag Rei with him to escape. When Hisashi asks him what is going on, Takashi explains that people have been killed at the school gate, so the whole situation is pretty bad. Rei struggles with him, as she doesn't understand the situation, causing Takashi to slap her so she can be quiet. Hisashi realizes that this situation is very serious, so he decides to follow him, and on the way, Takashi explains to them what he saw. After listening to what he had to say, they realize that they will need guns, so they improvise and create some with the school cleaning tools. Rei tries to call the police, but gets shocked because no one takes her calls. Then a message informs her that the emergency line is currently experiencing a high volume of calls. Just then, the school loudspeakers turn on, reporting that a violent incident is occurring within the school, so they must evacuate immediately. The speaker suddenly goes silent, and all that can be heard afterward are desperate screams from the teacher who was making the announcement. Shortly after, everyone hears how she is getting murdered, so they panic and run to save their lives desperately, causing chaos. Hisashi immediately stops to find an alternative path because the stairs are full of students. He then decides that they will escape through the administration building. On the way, they come across one of their former teachers, who is now a zombie. Rei tries to deal with him using her spear martial arts club skills, managing to stab him right in the heart. Still, this does not kill the zombie, so Hisashi pulls him away so she can escape. Despite feeling very sure that he can handle him, the zombie turns his head and manages to bite him on the arm. Takashi immediately reacts and attacks the zombie with a baseball bat, causing him to release Hisashi's arm. The three flee to the roof, planning to make a barrier until they get some help. Peeking through the observatory, they are surprised to see that the city is now in chaos, and they can't comprehend what is going on. The self-defense forces fly over them in helicopters, and Hisashi assumes they must be on a special mission since there's no way they would fly here for nothing. They are not interested in their safety, and will do nothing for them, as this chaos is even happening outside, where you can still try to flee. Takashi explains that this is a disease caused by zombies, and for some reason, blowing up their heads is the only way to get rid of them. Seeing themselves surrounded on the roof, they're forced to climb to the top of the building by some stairs as they manage to dodge all the zombies. They don't know why all this is happening, but Takashi thinks that there must be a reason, and if they can figure out what's behind all this, they can find a solution. Hisashi comments that for now, they should look for a lighter or some matches to light a fire now that they can. Before they finish talking, Hisashi begins to vomit blood, and Rei approaches him immediately, clearly worried. She is surprised to see that his eyes turn white since he was only bitten a little. Takashi replies that it's like in the movies, once you're bitten, you're done. Rei doesn't want to believe that's true, but Hisashi tries to be rational and asks Takashi to help him. He wants Takashi to throw him off the roof since that should break his head. Rei is upset, clearly opposed to that, but Hisashi interrupts her, exclaiming that he doesn't want to be one of them. His condition is getting worse and worse, so Hisashi asks Takashi for help again, saying that he wants to be himself until the end. Takashi sees his friend die in front of his eyes, and Rei can do nothing but cry. After a few seconds, Hisashi's hand moves, so Takashi asks Rei to get away from him. Seeing him approach with a baseball bat, Rei panics and asks him not to do it, assuring him that Hisashi is not going to become one of them. Just then, Hisashi gets up, but he is no longer the same. Rei doesn't want to believe that this is real, that Hisashi is now a zombie, but Takashi knows that this is real. so he approaches his best friend and ends his life, just as he asked him to. After processing what happened, she gets angry with Takashi, clearly hurt by her loss. Rei even accuses him of having done that only because he hated Hisashi for dating her. Takashi decides not to bother her anymore, so he leaves the place, determined to kill them all. It is then that Rei runs to stop him, apologizing for what she said and asking him to stay. Seeing his childhood friend in tears, Takashi stops and decides to go back to her and hug her without hesitation. They both remain there, but Takashi is clearly still very affected by what he did to his best friend, wondering what they can do against the zombies. Rei plans to get in touch with her father, but he replies that even if her father is an officer, they will not be able to contact the emergency line. But then she clarifies that she knows a secret number that she is not supposed to call. She does this and is glad when her father takes the call, but she immediately notices that he cannot hear her and gets worried. Rei's father warns her that the entire city has entered a state of panic, and they are fighting right now. But before he can share the details, the call is cut off, and Rei realizes that the signal got lost. In a different scene, we see Seiya Takagi, an honors student, trying to escape from the school with Kata Hirano, a somewhat naive and insecure student. He insists they should call the authorities, trusting that the government will do something, but she knows that won't work in this context. Seiya explains that there are 130 million people in Japan and questions what would happen if the same thing were happening within the self-defense forces. Just then, the zombies approach, so Seiya decides to move forward quickly to save herself, while Kata follows her. In the infirmary, we see Shizuka Marikawa, the school nurse. She was saved by one of her students, but this one ended up being bitten by a zombie. Shizuka is surrounded with no escape. Fortunately for her, the kendo club captain, Bushijima Siko, appears and finishes off all the zombies in seconds. Siko approaches the student who saved the nurse, saying that she will never forget his bravery. The student knows what happens to those who are bitten, so he asks Siko to end his life before that happens. She agrees, but Shizuka gets a little upset. Still, Siko asks her to step aside, as she's determined to protect the boy's pride. Then she finally ends his life. Back to Seiya and Kata, she takes him to a room full of tools, commenting that he is one of those gun freaks, so he must have seen some of these things in action movies. There, Kata observes a nail gun, wondering if it is gas-powered. Seiya clarifies that it is not, because if it had one of those compressors like in the movies, he would not be able to move it. At that moment, the zombies begin to get too close to the room, trying to break down the doors. Therefore, Kata begins to rummage through the toolboxes, making quick calculations as he improvises. After making several modifications during those few seconds, Kata is able to use his new gun and finish off all the zombies that enter the place, which allows them to escape. The zombies also reach Takashi and Rei on the roof, so they both manage to use the fire hose to ward them off. Now in the school hallways, Rei asks Takashi where they will go now, and he replies that they will go home and meet with those people who are still alive. Takashi tries to sound carefree just to reassure Rei, although he actually is worried since his mother is a teacher, which means that the same thing that happened at this school could have happened at the school where she works. Meanwhile, Seiya and Kata keep walking through the school hallways and studying the zombies' behavior. She comments that their nerves are dead, so they won't notice if something hits them. They only react to sound and seem to be blind. They will check more things later. On the other hand, Shizuka and Siko are heading to the teacher's lounge since everyone leaves their car keys there. Despite how far they've come, Shizuka moves somewhat clumsily, so Siko explains that this is because her clothes don't allow her to run. Therefore, Siko rips her skirt, clarifying that her life is more important than her clothes. At that moment, they hear a crash, and it turns out to be Kata firing his makeshift gun at the zombies. He asks Seiya if she can fight too, as the arsenal is about to run out. Kata's ammo runs out just in that moment, and Seiya is now cornered by a zombie, so she panics and uses the first thing she finds to defend herself. Her screams of despair attract everyone's attention, so in a matter of seconds, Shizuka, Siko, Rei, and Takashi arrive at the scene, and the four of them take care of the situation. Once they clear the place, Seiya is still shocked, and when she finally reacts, she simply bursts into tears in Siko's arms. They all decide to take a break in the teacher's lounge after that, and there they agree to escape in the school minibus. Shizuka asks where they will go, so Takashi replies that they must make sure their families are okay. They will start with the nearest houses, and if necessary, they will rescue their families, and then look for a safe place. Just then, they all hear on the news that the government is implementing emergency measures against the riots that are taking place across the country. It is estimated that so far, there are about 10,000 victims in the Saitama area, and the government has already declared a state of emergency. Just then, the reporter of the news is alarmed to hear a gunshot and reports that the police have finally decided to use guns. The group witness in real time how the broadcast is cut off by an attack, which leaves them in shock. Another reporter speaks from the studio, informing the citizens about the seriousness of the situation, so they must stay home. Takashi is angered by the fact that they won't share more info, but Seiya implies that they must be afraid of causing more panic. Changing the news channel, they also learn that all this chaos is happening worldwide, and there is no control whatsoever. In just a couple of hours, the world has become this, but Rei believes that there must be somewhere safe, and perhaps things will return to normal. Seiya immediately contradicts her, clarifying that this is a pandemic since the same disease that infected people here is spreading worldwide. This case is similar to the Spanish flu in 1918 when nearly 600 million people were infected and 50 million died. The European population decreased by a third during that time, and Shizuka explains that there are several theories about how they got rid of that disease. The reason diseases like those died out was because they killed so many people that there weren't enough people left to continue spreading. But Kauta comments that in this case, the dead are moving and attacking people. So Shizuka mentions that maybe their flesh will start to rot, and they will not be able to move since it is very hot outside. During the summer, it takes about 22 days for some body parts to decompose, but during the winter, it can take months. Despite her logic, Seiya clarifies that these things defy her knowledge of medicine, so they cannot rely on that. Siko replies that for now the important thing is to find a place to stay with their families, and that they must help the survivors while they can. Determined, the group agrees to act as a team and immediately take action, wanting to escape from the school. On the way, they save a group of students, but realize that the school's ground floor is full of zombies. They cannot stay there, they need to keep moving. So someone must verify if what Seiya said is true, that about zombies only being able to hear. Takashi is the one who tests that theory by standing in the middle of all those zombies without issues. The zombies cannot see him, so he decides to throw a shoe into the distance so that they follow the sound. This allows everyone to leave the school, but one of the last students accidentally makes a loud noise that even alerts the zombies outside. The group starts running for their lives, making their way through the zombies until they reach the minibus. Before they can leave, another group of students asks them to wait, and Rei doesn't seem very happy to see her teacher Shido accompanying them. Takashi tries to help them all, but Rei stops him, saying it would be better if they let someone like Shido die. Now we see that this teacher instructs his students to run, although he doesn't really believe they can make it. One of the students twists his ankle and asks the teacher for help, but all Shido does is kick him in the face, saying it's his end. Teacher Shido lets him die and rapidly reaches the minibus. Then Shizuka begins to drive at full speed, managing to escape from the school. Shido thanks Siko, thinking she is the leader, but she clarifies that she is not, as they only survive based on teamwork. Shido replies that it doesn't sound good, as they need a leader to survive, someone to handle everything. While this man is talking, Rei warns Takashi that he will regret saving Shido. After a while driving through the ruined city, the first conflict begins on the minibus, with one of the students they rescued. He tries to attack Takashi, but Rei knocks him down before that happens. There, teacher Shido uses this as an excuse that they need a leader who handles these kinds of stuff. He says that since he is a teacher, he is the most qualified for that role since he would avoid any conflict. Several of the rescued students agree, so Shido becomes the leader by a majority vote, and the main group couldn't do anything about it. Rei suddenly gets out of the vehicle, clearly angry. She says that she will not go anywhere with that guy around. Takashi goes after her to stop her, but suddenly a bus out of control and full of zombies crashes into the tunnel where they are, trapping them. Siko approaches quickly, and Takashi informs her that they will wait for them at 7 at the police station. Shizuka drives the minibus away from there, now changing her route, and on the other hand, Takashi flees with Rei as they fight the zombies they encounter. They both can't do more than go on foot, but then they find a motorcycle lying on the road, which luckily still works. The minibus finally arrives in the city, which is plagued by traffic, and the authorities instruct everyone not to get out of their vehicles. They're taking more time than planned, and Siko even says that they will probably travel 1 kilometer per hour, so she wonders if they will be able to cross the bridge before dawn. On the other hand, Takashi and Rei advance through a part of the city that is now completely uninhabited and in ruins. They cannot find anyone, and seeing no zombies, they assume they escaped the place. They come across a police car with its engine running, so they are relieved and quickly approach it, only to find the driver dead and the back of the car destroyed. Rei stops to investigate, and Takashi warns her that it is dangerous since the car is losing gas. But she believes that they could find something useful, so she decides to investigate anyway. In the car, she manages to find a pair of handcuffs, a loaded gun, and other things that may be useful. Seeing the gun, Rei asks Takashi if he knows how to use a gun, although he only knows what he has seen in the movies. The small gun is heavier than he thought, and it can only fire 5 bullets. Rei hands him some more bullets she found, explaining that the magazine of the other gun was broken, but the bullets are fine. Even though they now have a gun, Takashi decides not to get rid of his old guns since they won't be able to shoot without practicing first. They both go and arrive at a gas station, but unfortunately, they need money or a credit card for this service. Takashi admits that he has no money at the moment, and Rei left her wallet in her purse. After a short argument, he decides to enter the gas station to look for money by breaking the cash register. However, a few seconds later, he hears Rei screaming, and when he comes out, he sees that a man is holding her back with a knife, claiming that he needs a woman to survive in this world. The offender begins to touch her, so Takashi becomes enraged, but maintains his composure since Rei is being threatened with a knife. The guy instructs him to put gas in the motorcycle as he plans to take it along Rei. Takashi throws his bat to the ground to show him that he is unarmed, but this noise attracts the attention of nearby zombies. Then he acts normally and puts gas in the motorcycle while trying to dialogue with the criminal, asking if he can leave them alone since they are on their way to see if their parents are okay. The guy replies that if their parents are in the city, they will suffer the same fate as his, who became zombies, and he had to end their lives. Once the motorcycle's gas tank is full, Takashi tries to reason with the man once more, but he only gets more aggressive. Still, Takashi approaches and continues to provoke him, and when he is distracted, Takashi rapidly points his gun at the offender's chest. And since the gun is at a close range, it'd be impossible to miss. The criminal is nervous and starts warning him that if he shoots, he will blow up the gas station. Takashi simply replies that that is much better than letting him take his girl, and without further ado, he fires his gun for the first time. The man writhes in pain on the ground, and Rei looks at him with contempt after what he did to her. But Takashi warns her that they can't waste any more time with this guy. Also, he reminds her that they have just made a lot of noise, so the zombies are approaching the place. With this in mind, Rei obeys him, leaving the place on the motorcycle with Takashi and letting the zombies take care of that degenerate. On the way, Rei notices that Takashi is very quiet, so she asks him what is wrong. He replies that from now on, this kind of stuff will repeat again, endlessly. She already knows this, but they still must move forward, and on the way, an aerial vehicle passes near them, apparently taking a picture of their faces. In another scene, we see that at the airport, there's a plane about to take off after having verified that all the passengers are not infected. Before taking off, some skillful police snipers are in charge of eliminating the zombies on the runway. Among the snipers, there is this woman named Rika Minami, who is ranked among the top 5 shooters in the nation. Upon finishing the job, the plane takes off, and Rika mentions that she will go to the city eventually since she has a friend waiting for her. This friend apparently is Shizuka, who is now stuck in city traffic and feeling very bored. On the other hand, Shido continues to take the lead, saying that the first thing they must do is find a safe place as a team, instead of acting alone. He clarifies that they should not go see their families until they are an organized team, since it is more important to establish the organization of this group. The main group seems to ignore his words, and Kauta simply observes the chaos in the city, commenting that it would be a better idea to evacuate to the suburbs. Sayer reminds him that cars are not the only way to escape from here since there is a floating airport. Densely populated areas are dangerous, so there are probably people going to the islands off the coast or somewhere isolated with fewer people, if appropriate measures have been taken. Hokkaido and Kyushu should also be safe. so she believes the planes are heading to those areas. Even so, it is too late to go there because even if the self-defense forces or the American forces have the situation under control, she is sure that they are not allowing passage to those areas. In due time, even the whole world will be like this since, to survive, people will focus on keeping their community as small as possible. Somewhat impressed, Kauta mentions that she is very intelligent, but Seiya clarifies that it is obvious since even Shido already thought about that and is determined to achieve it. Kauta asks if he should stop him with his gun, but Seiya replies that the most important thing is to think about how to survive. She needs someone she can trust, so it's a problem that Takashi isn't here. Kauta asks her if she likes Takashi, and Seiya immediately denies it, but her nervous attitude completely betrays her. She is upset to see that Shizuka and Siko are listening, and apparently, they already know what is happening, but they only comment that they hope they are okay. Back to Takashi and Rei. Both are clearly disturbed by the situation on the streets since civilians are losing their minds, and everything is even more brutal than a war. Staying in one place for a long time is dangerous, so Takashi decides to make his way on his motorcycle at full speed. The group of civilians nearby begin to attack them, trying to stop them. For some reason, Rei wonders why they are attacking them when they are not even zombies, and Takashi replies that they probably went crazy, just like them. After advancing a little further, he decides to avoid the bridge since it is full of people and chaos. Therefore, it is best to go to the Onbetsu Bridge to meet the others later. Meanwhile, on the bridge, we see that the police are holding back the zombies that are attracted by the commotion. They inform the citizens that entry into the city is prohibited for people without authorization, warning that anyone who crosses without permission or by force will be severely punished. Some students force their way and manage to cross the bridge, so the police give them a warning. But the group doesn't stop, as they're very confident that the juvenile law is on their side, so the cops cannot do anything to them. Despite this, the police act, releasing a strong shot of pressurized water that causes them to fall off the bridge. Meanwhile, in the minibus, Shido tries to convince everyone that they must protect their pride, so those who got off the bus, Takashi and Rei, can no longer be part of them. Shizuka, Siko, Kauta, and Seiya watch from afar and know that the situation is getting bad. As Shido sounds like the recruiter of some kind of cult, Seiya clarifies that he not only sounds like one, but is really one, and it is enough to see the faces of those who listen to him. It is as if they were witnessing the birth of the Shido cult. Siko mentions that judging by what is happening outside, they should probably get off the bus. They must somehow cross the Onbetsu Bridge and reach the Eastern Police Station to meet Takashi and Rei as promised. After all, her father taught her to keep her promises, even if it leads to her death. Seiya seems to agree, and Kauta decides that he will follow her wherever she goes since his parents are not in the country either. Shizuka comments that she wants to go with them too since all her relatives lie far away, and although it is rude to say so, she does not like Shido. Seeing that they are planning something, Shido asks them what is going on, reminding them that they must act as a team. Seiya refuses, clarifying that they have their own objectives, and this is not a school trip, so they are not obliged to follow him. Shido does not oppose that since they are in a free country, but warns that he cannot let Shizuka go since losing a nurse in this situation would be the worst. Shido slowly approaches Shizuka, trying to convince her to stay, but is stopped by a nail that grazes his cheek. Kauta points his gun at him menacingly, clarifying that he missed on purpose, but he doesn't stand him anymore, and right now, he can kill people too. Shido has no choice but to back down when his life is in danger, so thanks to Kauta, the group manages to escape. On the other hand, Takashi and Rei finally reach the Onbetsu Bridge where they face the same situation as before. It's sure to say that all the bridges have been blocked, so it will be useless to go to another. But they must somehow cross this bridge to get to the Eastern Police Station before 7 p.m. They both hear a commotion, and Takashi immediately recognizes what is happening when he hears a nail gun. Somehow, he manages to cross the bridge barricade, attacking several zombies along the way. There, they find the group surrounded by zombies, so Takashi hurries and launches his gun to Kauta, and since he is a gun freak, he can use it with precision. Working as a team, they manage to get rid of all the zombies, but they still notice that it is impossible to cross the bridge now. Shizuka suggests that they rest for the moment, commenting that she knows a place, which is the house of a friend of hers. She always spends her time working at the airport, so she gave her a key to clean it from time to time. It is an apartment with a good view that is located next to the river. It has a shop nearby and even a car. The group agrees that they should rest, so Takashi decides to go ahead on the motorcycle with Shizuka to check the place first. Upon arrival, they are surprised to see that the car Shizuka was talking about is a Humvee, a multi-purpose, all-terrain military vehicle. The zombies soon surround them, so the group forces their way through. That's when Takashi notices how much they've changed as they went from running to surviving. Once they arrive at the apartment, the girls decide to take a bath. While the boys investigate the place, there they manage to find ammunition, and now they are trying to open a safe with a tool. When they finally succeed, Kauta is excited to see a complete arsenal of guns. Takashi simply wonders why Shizuka's friend would have something like that in her apartment, since some of those guns are even illegal in Japan. Kauta recognizes each of the high-caliber guns, and Takashi holds a shotgun, wishing he didn't have to point it at anything other than zombies. Hearing that, Kauta replies that this is impossible since he knows things will only get worse. In a war like this, there will be no surrenders, no negotiations, and that is why they must prepare. Both then prepare to load the guns with ammunition, and Kauta tells him that he already used real guns when he was in America. He was trained for a whole month by a professional Blackwater instructor who used to be a Delta Force captain. Takashi is clearly impressed, so he is glad that they are both on the same team. He keeps wondering who Shizuka's friend is since these guns are illegal. Kauta explains that it is not illegal if you buy the parts separately, but becomes illegal when you put them together. Shizuka mentioned that her friend belonged to the SAT Special Forces or the Special Assault Team, so at least they know that they are not in the house of an ordinary citizen. Police officers who are not married usually live in dormitories, so if she lives in a place like this, she must be wealthy or into something serious. The building's good views allow them to see the situation outside from a distance, so Kauta asks Takashi to turn on the TV. He does so, and there they find out that the citizens are rebelling against the government, claiming that this killer pandemic was caused by biological weapons. Takashi is upset to hear that, saying that it is impossible for science to explain how the dead can move and attack people. In the riots, the zombies approach the barricades, and seeing themselves cornered, the police decide to shoot them without waiting for an order. The protesters are upset to see that and claim that the police are despicable for using violence against civilians. One of the police officers approaches the leader of the protesters, asking him to leave immediately since it is dangerous for them to be there. The civilian refuses. He says that they are only trying to uncover the conspiracy hatched by the government. The officer gives them another warning, reporting that the police were ordered to take any necessary measures to maintain order. It is not precisely legal, but the order is clear. Suddenly, the group of protesters are completely silenced when the officer takes the life of the leader with his gun, and the news broadcast is cut off. Takashi says that they'd better start moving, but Kauta replies that it will be difficult in the dark. On the other hand, when Shizuka and Rei finally get out of the shower, they are exhausted from everything that has happened so far. Rei is tired and depressed because she has not been able to contact her father. Takashi decides to let the girls rest for now, and with Siko's help, he prepares the supplies for the next day. He is upset to see her wearing only an apron, but Siko explains that she could not find suitable clothes for her. Rei calls him at that moment, still somewhat silly from exhaustion, so Takashi decides to accompany her. However, she keeps talking about Hisashi and how good he was, unlike him. After a while, Takashi says that he is tired and clarifies that he also has his own business. Rei compares him to Hisashi once more, so Takashi loses his composure and yells at her, saying he is not Hisashi. He reminds her that Hisashi is already dead, so she must stop running from reality since they are still alive. Rei stops him before he can say something else, and in a vulnerable moment, she decides to kiss him. Meanwhile, the chaos in the city increases, so the police resort to desperate measures, using heavy construction machinery to crush the zombies. Uninfected citizens are also in danger of being crushed, so they panic and start running for their lives. People are left to their fate, losing hope of being saved by the authorities. The police forces are in charge and trying to maintain order. Still, some officers cannot bear it, so they end up taking their own lives. Back to Takashi, he asks Rei to stop since if she continues, he will have a little problem with his pants. Rei simply laughs, and then she suddenly hears a dog barking outside. Takashi decides to go out to investigate, but Kauta is already aware of the situation and informs him that it is a bad thing. there is a small dog barking outside the building for some reason, and the noise of its barking is attracting all the zombies in the area. Suddenly, Seiko goes out to the balcony to see the situation with the boys, and upon hearing that Kauta is thinking of shooting the zombies, she reminds him of the effect that sound has on them. On top of that, the other survivors will know their location if they see the lights and hear the gunshots. Something that would complicate things, because if they come and ask for help, they won't be able to save them all. Seiko asks Takashi to see for himself, as he must realize that the world is no longer a place where one can survive by mere courtesy. Takashi uses binoculars to look around, and sees some survivors trying to hide or escape from the zombies. Suddenly, he sees a man with a girl entering the house's yard while escaping from the zombies. He knocks on the door of the house asking to be let in and help him, but as soon as the door opens, someone inside the house attacks him with a spear. The man falls wounded on the floor while they close the door again, and the girl, now alone, cries for her father. The sound of she crying attracts the zombies that were near the place, and when one of them tries to attack her, Kauta does not hesitate to shoot him. Takashi asks him why he did it, and Kauta clarifies that she is just a little girl. Without hesitating for a moment, Takashi goes downstairs to try to save the girl. However, Rei offers to accompany him, but he asks her to stay and guard the door. Upon hearing him, Seiko mentions that he can go rescue her with no worries, since they will be in charge of protecting the place. Before leaving, Rei asks Takashi to take at least one gun, as it could help him. Takashi makes the decision to leave on the motorcycle, since due to the noise he will be able to attract the zombies to his position and away from where the girl is. While Takashi is riding the motorcycle, Kauta shoots the zombies that are around him. Takashi manages to reach the house where the girl is, but when he enters the yard he falls off the motorcycle. When he gets up he sees that there are two zombies cornering the little girl, who is with the dog from before, so he kills them to save her. Then he closes the gate so that no more zombies can enter and tries to eliminate the rest of them in the yard. Suddenly, a zombie takes him by surprise and he has no choice but to use the gun that Rei gave him. Meanwhile, in the house, the guys begin to prepare to flee the place, because after having made so much noise, they cannot stay any longer. When the girls look around, they realize that all the zombies went to where Takashi is, thanks to the noise he made. Shizuka mentions that because of this, he will not be able to return by motorcycle, so they should go rescue him. Seiya asks them to prepare because after rescuing Takashi, they will cross to the other side of the river. The girls begin to store all the things in the Humvee, to then begin the rescue operation. Meanwhile, Takashi notices how sad the girl is, so he resolves to take some clothes to cover her father, and clarifies that he died protecting her. He asks her not to make too much noise, as that attracts zombies, and after she asks him if they can go somewhere other than the street, he gets an idea. After thinking it over, he climbs the wall separating the house while carrying the girl and the little dog. Kauta sees from his position what Takashi is doing, so he goes down to tell the girls about it. When he manages to walk to the next house, the girl mentions that she wants to go to the bathroom. Seeing the situation and being surrounded by zombies, Takashi has no choice but to ask her to do it while she is on his back. This causes him to lose his balance and almost fall on top of the zombies, but he manages to stay on his feet. In the distance, he manages to see that the guys are coming to rescue him, and that is why he continues with his idea of walking along the wall until he reaches a clearer place. Thanks to this, he manages to get to where his group is and jumps onto the roof of the Humvee. Once everyone is safe, they all leave to try to get to a clearer place near the river. In another scene, we are shown that while there is chaos in the world, the President of the United States is on a plane with his team. The Vice President tells him that they have nowhere to land, and since they were both bitten, they must suppress all nations with intercontinental ballistic missiles, other than announcing the national state of emergency, as they have no other way to fulfill their duties to the citizens. At that moment, the Vice President begins to suffer the effects of the bite, and before becoming a zombie, he asks someone to end his suffering. Before an agent shoots him, he tells the President the code to start the protocols. Back to the group, they manage to cross the river with the Humvee through the flattest part. Upon reaching the other side, Seiya, who is keeping watch, lets them know that there are no zombies or humans nearby. The girls take the opportunity to change and put on some clothes, while Kauta tells Takashi that the girl's name is Alice Mercado. She is a second-grade student. Her father was a newspaper reporter, and he told her before he died that they would meet her mother later. Seeing that the girls are still changing their clothes, Kauta suggests to Takashi that they take advantage of the moment, but he makes it clear that he does not want to die yet. Takashi hears the little dog barking and takes it in his arms, so Kauta tells him that it will be called Zeke. This is the name that the American Army gave to the Zero fighter plane called Ryzen during the Pacific War. Kauta asks Takashi to use a shotgun to defend himself and explains how he can use it. When the girls are ready, they go up to the highway to see if it is clear. They confirm that everything is clear, and seeing where they are, Takashi tells them that the nearest house is Seiya's. As they are on their way to Seiya's house, they notice that there are no zombies and that there are many motorcycles along the way. Seeing Takashi thoughtful, Rei asks him what is wrong, and he replies that he has not seen any more helicopters or planes, even though they saw many the day before. Rei mentions that what they have not seen since last night either are the zombies, and it is something that seems strange to her. After traveling a distance, Kauta warns them that he sees zombies ahead, about 300 meters away. Shizuka tries to go down other streets to avoid the zombies, but they see even more as they approach the second street of Higashisaka. They suspect that there must be some reason for this, and when they reach a closed street, they have no choice but to run over them. Rei, who is on the roof, notices that there are metal cables attached to the walls closing the street, so she asks them to stop the vehicle. Shizuka crosses as far as she can, and they don't crash head-on into the metal cable, but thanks to inertia, the Humvee goes straight into the wall. To avoid a head-on collision, Shizuka brakes suddenly, and Rei is thrown off despite Takashi trying to catch her so she doesn't fall. Seeing Rei on the ground, Takashi jumps to defend her from the zombies and starts shooting them with the shotgun, but he can't hit them in the head. Kauta explains that he must aim at the chest due to the force exerted by his weapon, and this helps Takashi to be able to shoot well. When trying to reload, he finds it difficult, and the zombies are getting closer and closer to them. Faced with this problem, Siko goes out to help them and begins to attack the zombies with her wooden sword. When he can no longer reload again, Takashi runs towards Rei to hug her, but seeing the gun, he uses it to shoot the zombies. Kauta keeps shooting everyone he can to prevent them from getting closer, while Shizuka tries to turn on the Humvee again. Seiya goes out in search of the gun that Takashi left on the ground to help them and give them more time. The guys spend some time trying to eliminate all the zombies that approach them. Seeing Zeke get out of the Humvee to bite a zombie, Takashi takes the gun from Seiya and starts attacking the zombies, hitting them with it. Siko joins him, and between the two of them, they pass among the zombies hitting them, and as a result, they attracted the attention of most of them. Both go up some stairs that lead to the upper street, and while they escape, they try to make as much noise as possible. Seeing no other way out, Kauta takes Alice and tells her that he will pass her to the other side of the metal cable with Zeke. She is surprised and asks him what will happen to them, and Kauta replies that they will be fine. She tells him that he is a liar and that she does not intend to leave because he has the same look that her father had before he died. That is why she refuses to leave, since she does not want to be alone and wants to be with them forever and ever. When they're finally hopeless and Kauta thinks of throwing Alice to the other side of the fence, some people appear who begin to attack the zombies to save them. They help the guys cross to the other side of the metal cables, and one of the women who rescued them tells them that they can use the car later. When everyone is on the other side, Shizuka thanks her for helping them, and the woman who helped them cross takes off her helmet. She mentions that it is natural for a mother to help her daughter and her friends, so Seiya realizes that it's her mother, Yuriko Takagi. Takashi recognizes her from afar and tells Siko that they are saved, but she replies that their situation is not so good, as she does not believe they are going to help them. He tells her that since he knows the area well, they can take a shortcut to get to Seiya's house. Seeing them in the distance, Seiya yells at them that they will be waiting for them at her house, and upon hearing her, Takashi and Siko run off. They both begin to tour the neighborhood, trying to dodge the zombies, and looking for a way to get to Seiya's house without problems. Despite seeing Seiya's house in the distance on a hill, it will not be so easy for them to get there. Suddenly, Takashi remembers the motorcycles they saw when they arrived in the city, and it seems like a good idea to try to get one. When they arrive at the place, Siko mentions that although a motorcycle would be good, it could also be dangerous. While searching for things in the place, they find a 4-wheel, all-terrain vehicle that can also be used in the water. Thanks to this, they decide to take this vehicle, as this could help them overcome any struggle. Siko asks him if he has any plan, and Takashi asks her not to worry, as things will get interesting from now on. He takes them to the banks of the river, but seeing themselves surrounded by zombies, Takashi decides to jump into the water to avoid them. When they fall into the water, they begin to float, and when Takashi looks at Siko, he notices that she is completely soaked. However, seeing that her clothes become transparent, both blush and are completely embarrassed. After resting for a while, Takashi goes with the vehicle to a nearby sandbank. There he gives Siko some of his clothes to wear while her uniform dries. As she changes her clothes, she asks Takashi if she looks weird, but he replies that it is quite the opposite, and that she actually looks very good. He asks her if she likes someone, and although she is surprised, she replies that there is a man she likes. Seeing that there are few zombies on the shore, Siko asks him to return to the city, and they both use the vehicle again to venture out again. As they go through the streets, they find more and more zombies until they reach a park where Takashi puts the vehicle in a fountain. Being soaked again, Siko complains about him always wanting to wet women. Takashi ignores that and asks her to take the tape out of her backpack. He then uses this to tie the accelerator and make it spin in the fountain, so the sound attracts the attention of the zombies. He tells her that if they take the east exit, they will be behind Seiya's house in a few minutes, and he does not want to use his weapon to avoid the echo. Siko jumps out to start eliminating the zombies that are on the street where they need to go. This surprises Takashi, who thinks she is really amazing, but suddenly, Siko stops. She is paralyzed, witnessing that some children have transformed into zombies, and seeing that they are about to bite her, Takashi has no choice but to use his gun to eliminate them. He takes her hand and runs with her to a temple that is nearby. They both enter and close the door, so Takashi asks her what happened before. Seeing that she does not answer him, he tells her that it is dangerous to go out at night, and that is why it is best to wait until the next day. He begins to investigate the place, and after seeing some swords, he mentions to Siko that her uniform is already dry. After handing it to her, he goes behind some curtains, and while she changes her clothes, he seeks something in the bag. When Siko is already dressed, Takashi mentions that he found a portable bathroom just for her. She starts to laugh and thanks him, as she did not expect him to think about those things. She asks him to listen to her for a moment, although he may not be interested in what she has to say. She tells him that her fear returned because when they were on the sandbank and he asked her if she liked someone, it made her remember. Although she is a girl and likes men, she could never tell the person she liked how she felt because she did not think she was good enough. Takashi clarifies that he is completely sure that she could get anyone she wanted, but she lets him know that she killed a person. This catches Takashi off guard, so she explains that 4 years ago, she was attacked by a man during the night. As expected, she was unharmed since she was carrying her wooden sword with which she broke the man's shoulder and femur. Takashi comments that it is somewhat aggressive for self-defense, but Siko mentions that what bothers her is that she found it fun. At that moment, she knew that she had control over him for carrying that wooden sword, so she acted as if she was afraid, and that way deceived him. Siko makes him see that this is her true nature and asks him if he will be able to see her as a normal girl after knowing that. Takashi clarifies that since the zombies appeared, he has also acted like that. Siko reminds him that he became like that after the zombies, but she has been like that since before the zombies appeared. That is why, when she was in the fountain, she realized that nothing had changed, but that it had gotten even worse. Takashi takes her hand, and after looking into her eyes, they both approach and spend the night together. The next day they leave the temple, and Takashi tells her that it is best that they return to the previous street, since Seiya's house is 20 minutes from there. At that moment, a group of zombies arrives, and Takashi realizes that the sound of the trees is attracting them. He asks Siko to get out of there, but upon seeing her, he notices she is acting strangely. Therefore, Takashi approaches her, and after hugging her, he lets her know that if she needs a reason to act as before, he will give it to her. He tells her that he does not care how much she has spoiled. He will admire her as long as she is alive, and he will always think that she is one of the best women. For that reason, he does not want her to die or let him die, because he wants her to continue living, with her sins and her true way of being. Siko thanks him and mentions that thanks to this, she has returned to normal. Then she eliminates all the zombies that approach with one of the swords she found in the temple, and then they continue on their way to Seiya's house. When they finally arrive, the boys are greeted by Zeke and Alice, who runs to hug them. At the end of the day, Takashi accepts Siko's darkness and whatever comes with it, all to stay alive. One day after Siko and Takashi arrived at Seiya's house, the group finally takes it easy for the first time since it all began. While Takashi walks through Seiya's house, he meets Siko, whom he mentions looks very pretty in the clothes she is wearing. Seeing her reaction, he clarifies that his intention was not to say something strange, and she replies that she did not think that. Suddenly Alice arrives and greets them, then asks them what they are laughing about. Takashi replies that they were talking about how happy they are for her great spirit, which only makes the little girl happier. At that moment, they hear Seiya arguing with her mother, so Takashi goes upstairs to see what happened. When he finds her, he asks her what is happening, but she does not answer him and leaves, clearly angry. Yuriko leaves the room and asks Takashi if her daughter is causing him problems, but he replies that she is not. He lets that subject aside and mentions that her house is incredible. He always knew it was big, but he never expected it to be this big. On the other hand, Seiya goes to the warehouse, where she meets Kauta, who is learning more about the weapons they brought. She asks him to enjoy it while he can, since they won't last long there, and Kauta asks her why they won't stay longer if that house looks like a fortress. Seiya lets him know that everything is working thanks to an uncontrollable number of specialists who can work in a safe place. On the other hand, Yuriko tells Takashi that when it all started, the commander sent the self-defense forces to protect the power plants. That's why they don't know how much longer all that will last, and they have a bus ready to take with them only those who do whatever it takes to stay alive. While Kauta continues to look at the guns, an employee of Seiya's family arrives, and seeing him with the gun, asks him to be careful what he does. He mentions that what he has in his hands is a real gun, and children should not play with those things. Seiya asks him if that is all he had to say, and he replies that he was only going to inform her that he had already finished repairing the Humvee. After he leaves, Seiya tells Kauta that all the people there are adults, and for them, their group are only made by kids. That's why they must tell Takashi and the rest that information, as this is going to bring problems. After a while, the group meets in Rei's room to address this last issue. Seiya asks everyone if they should continue to be companions, and Siko tells her yes, since they are now a bigger and stronger group. Seiya replies that this is true, but warns them that they only have two options: join them or separate. Takashi asks her if there is any reason to separate from her family's group, since things in the city are getting worse, and her father is good at what he does. He has a good and orderly system, and his mother is also amazing. Seiya knows that this is true and lets him know that she has always been proud of her, since she did a lot in just 2 days. But despite that, they forgot about her because they thought there was no chance she would survive. Takashi asks her to stop and not be so hard on her parents, but seeing that Seiya gets more and more upset, he grabs her by the blouse and lifts her into the air. He clarifies that she is not the only one who matters, as they all feel that way too. At least she knows that her parents are fine, and with that, she is much better off than them, so she should be happy. Seiya asks him to let her go, since she already understands what he is trying to say, and also asks them to focus on the main problem. Suddenly, they hear several cars and trucks arriving, so they go out to see who it is. When they look out over the balcony, Seiya tells them that it is the former lord of Takanasu and current head of the Takagi family, her father, Soichiro Takagi. Kauta takes the opportunity to go to the warehouse to take the weapons they brought from Rika's house, but the workers at the place stop him and ask him to hand over the guns, since he cannot carry them because he is a kid. Kauta clarifies that he cannot hand them over, since someone lent them to him, and no one will be able to use them as well as he can. Suddenly, Seiya's parents arrive at the place, and Soichiro asks Kauta what his name is. He introduces himself to him, and Soichiro tells him that his voice has enthusiasm, so he assumes that he has suffered a lot along the way. Then he asks him if he won't hand over the guns, and Kauta replies that he will not, because without a gun, he'll be back to be the person he was before. He doesn't want to go back to that past, as he finally found something he's good at. Soichiro asks him what he is good at, and before Kauta can answer, Takashi tells them that he is good at protecting his daughter. He explains that since this hell began, Kauta has been taking care of Seiya all the time, At that moment, the rest of the group arrive to defend Kauta and plead for him. Seiya tells them that despite Kauta being a freak who is obsessed with military stuff, if it weren't for him, she would be one of the living dead now. He has been taking care of her since they were at school and helped her get home, unlike her parents. The next day, Kauta, Takashi, and Seiya are discussing with some people about what is happening in the world. They believe that it is all an infection and that it is not credible that the dead are walking. Seiya tries to explain to them that if it were just that, it could be resolved very easily, but it is quite the opposite, and no one has enough time to investigate it. Since this cannot be done, the best way is to survive and not be bitten by the zombies. One of the women remembers what happened with Seiya's father and accuses them of trying to intimidate them, thinking that children cannot use guns. She clarifies that the decisions will not be made by kids who are excited about violence, and they refuse to accept that. After a while, the guys leave, and Takashi tries to cheer up Seiya, but she clarifies that what she did was just something stupid. She only tried to talk to them because they were throwing shades at her father, so Takashi wonders if these people do not see what is happening outside. Kauta mentions that he can understand how they feel because humans do not see what they don't want to see. That is why, even though people know something is happening, most will do nothing. Takashi realizes that he has learned something new, and Seiya reminds him that this is why he is the leader of the group. Meanwhile, Siko is in a meeting with Soakairo, and he mentions that he has heard that the skills of Busujima's daughter can compete with anyone. He shows her a sword, and Siko notices that it is an ancient sword called Murata, for which she thanks him for showing it to her. Soakairo clarifies that the sword belongs to her from now on, but she clarifies that she cannot accept it without a proper reason. He comments that Busujima taught him a lot, and that is why he wants her to accept it as a symbol of his gratitude. Siko lets him know that if that is the reason, then he should give the sword to her father. He starts laughing because her attitude is quite common in the Busujima family, so he added that it's also because she has helped his daughter. Siko tells him that along with her, Takashi has also helped, as he is the leader of their group. Soakairo mentions that the confidence she shows in him makes him see that she is right, but he also seems to be full of doubts, and a man who leads others in times of chaos should be someone without doubts. Meanwhile, Takashi is in his room, questioning whether he can really be the leader of the group. At that moment, Rei arrives and makes it clear that everyone counts on him because he is always brave, both in school and in other moments. Takashi clarifies that it was out of desperation, but Rei tells him that this is not true. She lies down on Takashi and then mentions that women have a rule. This rule is that they like boys who are cute and care about them. Takashi is surprised because he does not meet either of the two, and he lets her know. Rei makes it clear that although he does not believe it, he is different now because, although he sometimes sounds desperate, when they need him, he always steps up. He does not need a reason. He just needs to know when to do it. He has always been like that, but she did not realize it before. That is why from now on, she wants them to be together, and she will do whatever it takes to make it happen. She tells him that she does not care if he falls in love with another girl, and suddenly Takashi throws her onto the bed. He mentions that he does not know whether to be happy or angry because her reasoning is quite complex. Since he still has pain from the fall, Takashi asks her to go see Shizuka, and Rei leaves, but not before telling him to think about what she said. When she opens the door, she finds Siko outside, and she comments that she heard there was another person, so she decided to wait outside. Meanwhile, teacher Shido manages to reach Seiya's house with his group of students. Meanwhile, Takashi meets with Soakairo to talk about his plan to rescue the parents of his friends and then return. He makes it clear that if they do not manage to return by the time of departure, they should assume that they will stay there with their parents. The kids prepare to leave, and suddenly Siko arrives because she wants to accompany them to rescue their families. Rei mocks Siko because she always tries to seduce Takashi, but suddenly she sees someone at the entrance of the house and runs out. Takashi is surprised by her reaction, but when he sees the entrance, it becomes clear that the reason for this is that teacher Shido has arrived at the house. Rei reaches where Shido is and threatens him, explaining that she learned to use spears because her father is a police officer and taught her to use bayonets. She reminds him that her father suffered because of him, as he blamed himself when she repeated the year. She knew that only teacher Shido could manipulate the grades like that, but she held back at her father's request. This was because if the investigation went well, then he could arrest the two heads of the Shido family. Teacher Shido asks if she is going to kill him because he does not believe that a police officer's daughter would want to become a criminal. She says she doesn't want to hear that, and suddenly Soichiro appears, asking her to kill him because, although he has a friendship with her father, that no longer matters. Takashi tries to help her, but Siko stops him and makes it clear that Rei must fix it on her own. Rei lowers the weapon and goes back inside, and when she passes by Soichiro, she mentions that it is not even worth killing him. In this situation, Soichiro asks Teacher Shido to leave and take his students with him. In another scene, we see that after a while, presidential orders to start ballistic missile attacks were approved. Then we see that people on a satellite in orbit confirm that apart from America, other countries have started launching their missiles. Although there are not many, this will ensure that most major cities and military bases are annihilated. After the guys get ready to go out in search of their families again, Shizuka tells them that she remembers her friend Rika's number, so she borrows a phone to call her, as she is sure she is still alive. When she calls, Rika answers and is glad that Shizuka is alive. So Shizuka tells her that she passed by her house and borrowed some guns. Rika asks where she is, when suddenly the call is cut off, and turning around, she sees that the sky is completely lit up. All of them are also amazed by this and wonder what is happening. Seiya asks Rei to try to see with the laser sight of her gun, but when she tries, she realizes it doesn't work. Seiya explains that it is an EMP-attack, also known as a high-altitude nuclear explosion. If a nuclear explosive detonates in the atmosphere, it creates an electromagnetic pulse that covers a large range, and that is fatal for electronic systems. This only means that now they can't use any electronic devices, and all plants will stop working. However, some cars might work if they change some parts or don't use an electrical system. At that moment, Seiya's parents arrive, and Soichiro congratulates her for being able to stay calm despite all the chaos. Suddenly, the defense barrier they had is breached, and zombies start entering around the house. Soichiro asks the guards to close the doors to keep them out, but one of the guards says that if they do that, it would mean abandoning their companions. Soichiro stands firm and asks them to close the doors, as if the zombies get in, they will lose everything. They close the doors, but seeing that a zombie managed to get through, Kauta doesn't hesitate to eliminate it with a shot. Due to the large number of zombies, they manage to knock down the gate and enter the house's yard. Everyone starts running scared, while those who can't escape are turned into zombies. The guys set out to eliminate all the zombies they can and approach the house. But despite their efforts, the situation worsens. One of Soichiro's workers, after seeing from the second floor of the house, confirms that the neighbors' houses have not been breached. Soichiro tells everyone who can fight to join them to reach another safe place. Seiya asks why they don't enter the house, but he replies that if they have already entered, the house is no longer a safe place to take refuge. Seeing Takashi, Soichiro asks if he wasn't going to look for his parents, so he tells him not to hesitate to follow his own path. Then he asks Kauta to take care of his daughter, and upon hearing this, Seiya screams, asking what he means by this. Yuriko stops her, and after slapping her, reminds her that both her father and she have a duty to fulfill. Therefore, leaving her under the care of Kauta and Takashi is the best they can do. After saying goodbye, Yuriko asks them to follow their own path and take care of themselves. The guys reach the garage, and there one of the workers mentions that the Humvee was not affected, as it was reinforced with anti-EMP metal. This makes him think that maybe the owner was a crazy military man, given all the things it has, so he can repair it, but it will take some time. Siko mentions that they should protect that place until the Humvee is ready. They start eliminating all the zombies that approach, but despite this, more and more come, thanks to the noise of the guns. After a moment of carelessness, Rei is caught by one of the zombies, but before being bitten, Takashi arrives and saves her. When the Humvee is finally ready, Shizuka manages to turn it on and asks the others to get in. As soon as everyone is in the Humvee, they leave the place, returning to the main street. There they see a narrow space on the street, where they doubt they can pass, but they manage to do so thanks to Shizuka's driving skills. After traveling a few kilometers, they all hear the Humvee's engine sounding strange, so they know it won't last long. Takashi tells them that the Humvee will take them as far as it can, and then they will have to accompany him to find his parents and Rei's. Once they find them, the other idea is to look for Shizuka's friend wherever she is. Upon arriving at the main road, they see that there are many zombies along the way, so they have no choice but to start eliminating them to continue. When they can no longer advance in the Humvee, they have no choice but to continue going on foot to find their parents. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. You can find more anime recaps like this on my channel. If you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any future uploads. See you in the next one.